Good evening, everyone. Welcome to IQI Canada Evening Talks. My name is Yousaf Iqbal, country head Juwai IQI Canada. We're back with our popular show, the Maple Mondays, with none other than Mr. Haroon Anwar. How are you doing, Haroon?
I'm doing well, Yusuf. Thank you so much. Always good to be here on the show with you.
Thank you so much for joining, Haroon. First of all, Ramadan, Mubarak Ramadan Kareem to you and to
Thank
all our
you.
listeners.
Likewise to you as well.
And the beauty of IQI is that even we are in different time zones, we still work together in making sure that our audience get the benefit of it. Someone is fasting, someone is not fasting, but that's the 24/7 clock which works with IQI.
Yes, and as Ramazan is moving closer and closer to a time when iftar
Yes.
doesn't take as long, it's always more welcome because the fasting time is shorter.
You know what? I still want to see that fasting time happening here in Canada, where it starts. It's getting better now, but then when it comes to like winter time, 5:30, 4:30, 5 o'clock. You can imagine that less than 12 hours on that. But again, wishing everyone a very very blessed Ramadan. The good thing is that every time we come up, Haroon, and really appreciate that we come up with very different topics in terms of educating our audience and telling them about different opportunities, or even in the sense like giving them more of a generic information where people are probably know about it, but and a lot of people doesn't know about it on that. So one of our topics today is basically, which could be controversial, could not be controversial, but we would like to talk about the do's and don'ts of it. Is some of the opportunities for the real estate investors.
Hmm.
And when we talk about the opportunity for real estate investors, yes, one straightforward thing when people look at it is, get into any property, buy properties, but then just buying properties by itself is one part of it. Then comes a lot more other elements in terms of managing the properties and looking at that. So before I get into those details, can we just talk about some of the opportunities which people have? And what I want to talk about is something called a term called like, shared ownership.
Hmm.
You want to talk
Hmm.
a little bit about what is shared ownership?
Okay, thanks, Yusuf. And as always, I get also fascinated and excited by the choice of topics your team comes up with. Um, well, in concept, shared ownership is not something new, and it takes many shapes and forms. It has from public REITs, real estate investment trusts,
Yeah.
where almost like securities, you pool in the funds of different investors, allowing you to invest in certain real estate classes like industrial, commercial, as well as other residential, uh, and all the way down to co-ops. You have also co-ops which have co-ownership. Now, this concept of co-ownership is not new, but in the last 2 to 3 years, we have seen a resurgence of interest of people to co-own, largely because now we have technology that enables platforms that bring different kind of like-minded investors together in a much more uh, easy way than ever before. And through platforms like crowdfunding, you are able to pool funds together and then invest in a real estate class. So uh, so what are different forms of co-ownerships to your earlier point?
Yeah.
Uh, so one which is very popular way of owning is fractional ownership. Fraction, as it implies, it's a part ownership of something. It could be a real estate. It could
Mhm.
be a vehicle. Typically, you will see it people buying houses, aircrafts, ships, etc. So people pool in their resources and they come together to buy that asset. Then we also popularly hear about something called timeshare,
Yes.
and people use the word "I've invested in a timeshare," etc. Um, and then we hear about vacation clubs
That's true.
as well, where people get that. So all of these, from REITs to fractional ownership, timeshare, vacation clubs, co-ops, etc. They are all one form or the other of co-ownership.
That's
And there are additional forms as well, but these are the more popular three or four major ones. Sometimes I hear people use them interchangeably, but they are differences.
okay.
And let's go through what are the differences so that people who are listening to us get a better sense and understanding on
Please.
why are they becoming so popular, what are those differences,
Yeah.
and what they should look out for when they are considering an investment in real estate through one of these options.
Very nice. Very nice. That's really amazing. So let's teach touch a few of them, and please start.
Okay, so for our discussion today, I would recommend we keep real estate investment trusts out of the discussion today.
That's right. That's
We will do it as a separate topic,
true.
although that's also a form of co-ownership,
That's right.
but it takes a whole other discussion on how to look at REITs, how to evaluate, how to select, etc. Let's have our focus today on three major ones,
Mm-hmm.
which would be what is fractional ownership,
Okay.
what is timeshare,
Yeah.
and what is a vacation club, and what exactly are people, uh, quote unquote, investing or buying in when they do that. Okay,
Perfect.
so
This is something very interesting because we hear so many times these things, but as you rightly said in the starting, a lot of people don't understand. Maybe a bit more depth into it on that. So let's start with what you saw with the shared like timeshare.
yeah,
Okay.
sure. Let's start with timeshare. So so timeshare, as actually the the trick of the whole thing is embedded in the name itself,
Yeah.
timeshare. So when people say we've invested in a timeshare, uh, sometimes they don't realize, but they're not really investing in the real estate in itself. What they're doing is they're investing in the time that they will get to occupy that real estate. Okay? So this is an important differentiator because yes, some timeshares are structured. There are many ways to structure timeshare, and some timeshares are structured where the investor is shown as the owner of the real estate, but then at the same time they have very limited control
Okay.
over how they use that real estate. So the sponsor of the timeshare will say, yes, you own this, and yes, you own the timeshare real estate, and you have all the liabilities that come with it, and all the costs associated that come with it.
Yeah.
But then you are given a very specific time that you are allowed to occupy that investment, the space where you've invested. You can't do much with it. You can't make major decisions with it. You can't really do a whole lot with it. And that's the kind of restriction that very few people recognize and
Mm-hmm.
understand that limits their options. So it's very exciting to say, well, I invested in this luxury um, villa where I have timeshare, or this a place which I can go and travel to and spend time. But because you're investing it with, let's say, it's a 2 week timeshare, right? So typically people get 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And given that there are 52 weeks in a year, it's simple maths that you're one
Yes.
of the
That's
one of the 16, right?
right. Yes.
Who are there. So then you have to either trade your time with somebody else who's able to do that, or give your time to somebody else to go and stay in your place, etc.
That- That's right. That's right.
But that's typically what a timeshare brings to you. The challenge with timeshare typically is, and we have seen that, is it does not usually increase in value over time. So the
Mm-hmm.
secondary market for timeshare is generally very poor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, I'm saying it generically. There might be some structure differently, but by and large, you will see
That's right.
that these are some of the common challenges.
Yeah.
That and there's a monthly fee that comes to maintaining it because there's a professional management team that maintains the property.
That's right.
So when you work out the math and you say, okay, now I am limited
Yeah.
to let's say you've invested in a popular amusement timeshare near a popular amusement park.
That's
Okay,
right. Yeah. Well,
that
yeah.
means in in that allotted time you can go there and only enjoy that park
That's
in
right.
that time.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
you
right.
can't really change your plans or go to another place, etc. And in that period you have to then use your time or trade it with somebody else who is willing to do that, spend a lot of costs in
Mhm.
maintaining it, which includes taxes, maintenance, etc. And I would recommend people should evaluate these contracts extremely carefully.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, even have a lawyer look at it,
Yes.
because even though there's a cooling off period always, and the salesperson will tell you, hey, sign now, if you change your mind you can, but it makes it really hard to get out of these contracts even during the cooling off period.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes,
I thought that more straightforward. You could just come out anytime within just 10 days or 15 days or a month, something like that.
well, that's why I always recommend that professional lawyers who
Yeah.
have an expertise in this should review it. And let's not our exuberance to say, "Hey, what a great thing!" take away, because a lot of times these timeshares will promote it with a mortgage as well, financing as well.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
if you start looking at the rate at which you're financing this, and then you add up all the costs and the maintenance, your overall cost for that limited time you get is
Yes.
just economically not as viable. Especially when you remember now that booking.com, sorry, I shouldn't be saying real estate, but
Anything. Yeah. Doesn't matter. It
but
doesn't matter.
but
Yeah.
popular names like Airbnb, etc.,
Yeah.
provide so many options.
That's right. That's right. That's
Okay,
right.
so that gives us the added flexibility.
And I think also it becomes sometimes an I would say ad hoc or emotional decision as well. When you are being invited to a timeshare, you've been asked to come to a resort, you're enjoying the resort right away on there, and then there's normally a presentation if there's an opportunity to be at that particular location, and when the presentation happens, because you are in a holiday mood, you're really enjoying yourself. you know I have been to a few of them, and that's the time when they stick with. Now this is the time. All we need is a 90 minutes of your time, and things like that. And again, depending upon what your requirements are, very, very, very valid points. Maybe it's easy to get in, but how easy it is to get out of that timeshare is very important as well. One thing I think we have also seen that COVID has changed is that we just don't know, like, the timeshare which you bought, are you not even able to travel to that particular timeshare? Will you be able to use that timeshare or not? I think the value is very, very important. What you just now mentioned, Haroon, is that is the value of that timeshare going up in times or not? Because again, with some personal experience, or some of the other people I know, you are absolutely right. They haven't seen much of an appreciation on that. I'm not again, we're talking in generic terms. We're not talking about a specific thing on that, but these are very, very important points to look into it before you are investing into a timeshare, whether you are using it for yourself within that time period. If not, then how is it being utilized by others? The associated cost is very important on that. Interest rate, you very, very, you said, is very interesting, because the kind of interest rate you'll be paying on the property against what you're actually paying out here, because it's a timeshare. It's a small ownership, but then the cost associated uh, will maybe higher, because you're looking at a smaller amount, but the cost versus towards in terms of the calculation is looking at it. So very rightly said, we should be getting a lawyer to consult and look at those documents.
Absolutely. And we should mentally be extremely cognizant of the fact that what is it that I'm really purchasing? Am I
Mm,
purchasing real estate asset,
yeah,
or am I purchasing the time to occupy that space?
that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the key difference. Now, vacation clubs offer a much wider variety
Mhm.
for people, and there are some popular ones. Again, I'm going to try and avoid taking names of them, but you can Google the more popular ones. And the option that is made available is that if you pay a certain amount, you get certain points or
Yeah.
certain time period for which you can go and use those and redeem those points and enjoy. So it's almost like a prepaid vacation.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not really owning anything but a prepaid vacation. And the assumption behind that is that if I prepay, I will be able to purchase my vacation at a lower cost
That's right.
than what I will have to pay if I go at a certain time.
That's right. That's right.
The trick around that one is, in most cases, there are blackout periods,
Yeah.
or popular places are not available when
Yeah.
everyone wants to travel. So yes, it seems like we are paying a very good price, but when you average it out over peak periods and out of season, kind of works out to the same that you would pay if you were to pick your. So to
Yeah.
me, the choice of flexibility
Yeah.
on picking where I would like to stay, which resort, which place, and which time of the year far outweighs paying a prepaid vacation at a 20% discount.
Very
Okay,
true.
now I'm not taking away, there are lots of people who like vacation clubs,
Yeah.
okay? And they want to be able to belong to a certain system where they
That's
go to those properties anywhere in the world and be able to enjoy and redeem, etc., etc.
yeah.
Uh, but there are pluses and minuses, and people should know that when they get into a vacation club, it's not a real estate asset. It's not going up in value in any way. This is just a prepaid vacation. They have joined to, and as long as they're comfortable with that idea or that notion, that's perfectly okay.
Sometimes you also think like very very interesting said the vacation club, and you think like you're saving money, as you rightly said. You might not be saving money, and sometimes you probably have restrictions as well in terms of the properties, that what properties are available. So for example, you've been to one property, you really enjoyed it. How many times do you really want to be back at that similar property doing the similar activity? Maybe once or twice, and after you start feeling like, I did this already. What else can I do now on
Correct.
that? So very important point you raised here, that in terms of the flexibility as well. Uh, Prepaid buying vacation, it's something which I always look at from this perspective, that again, not giving anybody names on that, but if you are looking for search for any future places where you want to go, for example, right now this is month of March, you decide I want to go for a ski resort.
Hmm.
You have time, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months before, when you start booking those ski resort. There are packages, there's information available on that. But again, if there is something which you really think you want to be a part of a vacation club, it's good to know the do's and the don'ts of that vacation
Right.
club.
Correct. Correct. And again, it's a question of what value is it bringing to you, and what value are you expecting to get out of it. A lot of times these are worded as investments,
That's right.
okay? And anything that depreciates in value is not really an investment, okay? Or carries a huge amount of expense. I mean, I
That's
would
right.
even argue that even a house sometimes feels like a major cost to carry. And we'll do it as a separate topic, than
That's right.
the benefit of owning a house versus renting one. But
That's right.
uh, but it seems like, okay, now that's an important topic. The house prices have gone up so much
That's great.
that a lot
Yeah,
of people are unable to find it within their reach.
that's true.
Okay,
True.
especially the ones who are even young professionals who make good income, good salaries, etc.
Yeah,
Even husband and wife put together are
that's right.
still not able to put enough equity together
That's
to
right.
be able to put it down towards purchasing a house. Okay,
That's right. That's right.
and that's perhaps one of the major triggers we see that fractional ownership
Yeah,
has come about in a strong way. So again, as I said, not a new concept, but
yes.
what the platforms have done, and you can see it especially picking up strongly in places like the US, and I think there are one or two in Canada as well,
Yeah.
which allow people to pull in their funds,
Mm-hmm.
and those funds then are put together in some kind of a special purpose vehicle or a limited liability company,
That's right.
which then in turn owns a real estate asset.
That's right. That's right.
And
Yeah.
that real estate asset, Yusuf, is what you own partly.
That's right. Yeah.
Your LLC, so you have shares in the limited liability company, and that
Mhm.
limited liability company then owns that underlying real estate asset. Now, in some way, you still can say that you own the asset,
Yeah,
because as the value goes up of the
exactly.
real estate, the value of your shares goes up
That's right.
correspondingly.
Mhm.
And then there's also the possibility that if that place is rented out, short term, long term lease, etc., it can generate rental income.
That's right. That's right. That's right. No, I think fractional ownership is, you're absolutely right, is coming out a bit more into practice now, because the special purpose vehicle, or where you have the sometimes you have the GPLP structure as well, general partner, limited partnership, and people owning their shares in a particular company which is buying the real estate asset. The good thing I see it from that perspective is that, if you're buying an actual asset as compared to something as a timeshare, or again, not saying that what is right and what is wrong here on that, but just coming back to your point where you see the value in terms of appreciating, not depreciating on it. And more or less what we have seen, in last few years, and I would say that this goes for not only for Canada but worldwide, owning up an asset, an asset by itself, we have seen the appreciation happening on that. So fraction of ownership is getting popular. It comes to the also the point of, another point comes on it as well, is basically the I would say that in terms of the management of the property as well. So a lot of time, people want to invest into something, but do they really have the time and energy to manage that property?
That's so right. That is so right, Yusuf. I think that's another major advantage of going through fractional ownership, is that you get the benefit of the real estate ownership, where
Yeah,
it brings appreciation and income, and yet takes the entire headache away of managing a tenant, managing the property taxes, returns, collection of rents, maintenance. All of that is that becomes, you're right. I mean, not a whole lot of people have that kind of spare time to manage it on their own.
that's right. That's right. That helps as well. Another common thing is also when we talk about the interesting. We're talking about buying and renting. Well, that's a separate topic. But that just brings me to the question for the condominiums, right? As you know, that each and every condominium, when people are having this shared ownership, and that is also owning a common element. So
Yes.
when you buy a condominium, you are buying into some of the shared common elements as well, which you are paying in terms of the maintenance fees. So let's talk a
Very
little
good. Yeah, no,
about.
very good point, Yusuf. Actually, you're right. Uh, Most of the individuals, when they purchase a condominium, they somehow or the other have this notion that condominium is a synonym for apartment. But
That's
actually, condominium is a legal way of owning a property.
that's right.
Okay, so you could have condominium as a legal structure for apartments. You could have condominium for villas. You could have condominiums, etc. So condominium is a form of shared ownership in itself as well. And a lot of people, when they buy condominiums, they of course have the unit where
Yeah,
they have exclusive possession
that's
for
right.
their own use, but they also have the entire shared area around their condominiums apartment, which
Yeah,
is something that they share with other people. And that is exactly what you said, a form of shared ownership.
yeah, from a share
That is a
ownership.
form of shared ownership, and
Yeah,
people own that. And this is absolutely right. It's not something uncommon. People are used to that, and then of course they're also used to paying maintenance costs for
yes,
that common area, which is charged to them. And then there's a professional management team,
that's
typically, which is nowadays I think they're supposed to be certified to be
yeah,
able to manage the condominiums corporations properly. Not just
that's
anyone can step up and start managing. They have to be certified and have the right credentials to do that.
absolutely that's correct. And in our team here in Canada, we have one of our team members who is basically a realtor, and also he's working with one of these condominium corporations, and they have actually gone through the full course of handling that the condominium management course in terms of handling the the things which are being addressed. So it's, as you rightly said, it's not by anybody else who can just come in and do that. Previously, it was something else. Interestingly, then it just gets into a different topic, which we'll talk about it. What happens in terms of the condominium? What we should be looking in terms of status certificate. What happened with the status certificate and things
Which
like
we'll
that.
do separately, which we'll do sinking fund, status certificate, reserves, etc.
Totally separate topic
Yeah,
altogether.
that's a whole different topic, but it's a fascinating topic nonetheless when people invest and purchase. So
That's true.
so so now that you brought it up, that people are already used to the concept of shared ownership
Yeah,
when they buy into a condominium corporation, when they will buy condominium apartments. So getting into something like a fractional ownership
yeah,
is no different. It's a select group of people who come together, usually 8, 10 people who will come together to collectively own parts of a special purpose vehicle like an LLC,
yeah.
designed specifically to own the underlying real estate asset, typically a residential home. Now, the difference is, unlike your timeshare or vacation club, you may or may not get to enjoy that property.
That's right.
Okay,
That's what
because if
that's
it's
what
leased out or it's being used for long-term, short-term rentals, depending on the location, your objective is very clear: to
yeah,
participate in the rental income as well as the capital appreciation that comes with the property. It's as simple as that. And as we were talking about the young couples who are professionals,
yeah,
once they have saved up 10, 20K, whatever they have managed to keep in their hands at the end of the, they can use that money to get into a fractional ownership and have a diversified portfolio. They can, sitting in Canada, own assets in the US or vice versa. So it's a huge amount of flexibility with very little management and headache from their part to see, okay, what's happening with the property, because the professional management team will take care of all of that.
that's right. That's right. And a lot of also, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, nothing from me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought I lost you for a second. There was
Yeah.
sorry about that. Again, a very important point you made here, Harun, is that in terms of the ticket size as well. When it comes to the special purpose vehicle, the ticket size is also important, as so 40, 50,000, whatever has been saved in, or 20, 30, 40, depending upon what property and how many people are coming in together to get that property, and owning that asset, or part of that asset, is something which people should also look at and consider. But
Yeah.
again, as Harun rightly mentioned, when you mentioned in the starting, is that everything should go through a lawyer. The lawyer should
Yes.
look at the documentation, because every SPV, special purpose vehicle documentation, how easy it is to get in, how easy it is to get out of that. Because again, there's always do's and don'ts of it, right? You're getting into
And the
it.
liabilities, okay, technically, the word limited liability company
Yeah,
limits your liability,
that's right.
right? But still, as the owner of that limited liability company,
That's
there
right.
are certain responsibilities.
True.
And it's wise to have a lawyer go through the documentation to make sure that you're comfortable with what you're committing yourself to.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Now, crowdfunding, sorry, I'm jumping in now.
I was
Now,
going to go ask
crowdfunding
the same question. Good.
crowdfunding has become really popular way of attracting these kind of investments and resources.
Yeah.
So while crowdfunding has a wide spectrum of type of ways to raise money, there are specific crowdfunding websites for real estate,
Okay.
and those have gained immense popularity in the last 1 year as real estate prices have started to go up.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that if they are not part of this, they may miss out while they wait to get into a residential house of their own
True.
choosing.
True.
So what it does give them the option to bring their or pool their resources together with other investors and buy a desirable property, even though they own it partly, but still they have their name on the title there.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So again, Arun, thank you so much. It's like really always an enjoyable session to understand of what different opportunities come along with that. And as Haroon mentioned, there are so many other opportunities which come along for the investors. You have to evaluate it as well in terms of what is good in terms of your investment returns, in terms of something you can spare, something if you're looking into a vacation home where you said, you know what, I'm going to enjoy this vacation properties throughout next few years, and that's what I'm buying into it. You look into that. If you're looking at the timeshare, which is again just a timeshare, as Haroon mentioned on that, and the name by itself says on it that is something which you're looking at it. But either way, or a fractional ownership, always consult lawyers, for any of these contracts, because it's very important to understand what you're getting into it. So many times it's easy to get into it, but then to come out of that particular ownership, it's difficult. At the same time, I think now, having said that, when you talk about Google and you can look at some of the reviews and look at some of the properties and how they've gone up in terms of their appreciation, that's also very, very important. What exactly are you owning that? So, I always say that, don't get emotional with your buying, whether it's first time home buyers, whether it's long term home buyers, it's a second investor, whatever it is on that. Don't get emotional. Be rational. Look at the do's and don'ts.
Well said, Yusuf. Well said.
Good. Thank you so much, Haroon. Really, really appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time. Always a pleasure having you on our show.
Likewise.
Looking
Likewise.
forward to talking to you soon again. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you
Take
so
care,
much, Yusuf,
everybody.
for having me
Bye
on the show.
bye.
Bye.